And welcome to another episode of the Tar Heels Insider Podcast right here on SI. I am your lead North Carolina beat writer, Grant Sashray, of course, of North Carolina Tar Heels on SI. Make sure to follow Tar Heels on SI on Twitter, simply at Tar Heels on SI, and then also make sure to check out our Facebook page as well. Just look up the North Carolina Tar Heels on SI, and our page should be one of the first things to pop up. Click on it, like the page, and also liking the page will let you follow along with all the articles we post on the site. Also, of course, our website is free, so you got no paywall, no subscription, and absolutely no bull. It's all it's all of our latest content. I just released some articles about. I've done a schedule breakdown series for the offseason. I just recently released Duke. And then tomorrow, today, because as this episode will be released today, I'm recording this the day before, the article about North Carolina's matchup at UNC with NC State, will be up today. So make sure to go check that out. Of course, that game is pretty much marked on the schedules for every single one of UNC's players because we all know what happened last year after the game was over. It went viral. Let's just say everyone around the country knew about it. I'm talking about the fight, of course. But today, on this podcast, we're going to talk about the roster reveal and also why I think North Carolina really upgraded this roster, especially in the big men. Of course, I recently read an article about why UNC, really upgraded this front court completely. Hubert Davis and, of course, general manager Jim Tanner did an excellent job of scouting and evaluating and making sure that they fixed their weaknesses last year, right? And one of the big things that they improved on was the height of the team. I mean, last year, there was only two players that were 6'10", and they were exactly 6'10". So that's the listed height. Remember that. So they could have been 6'9". But this year, you add 6 players who are 6'10" or over, and you have 2 7-footers. The average height of this team is 78 inches. Well, 78, I think it was 78.6 inches, which is a huge, huge, huge improvement because they really lacked size and versatility. I mean, last season, you got to think about this. In 2023 and 2024, when Armando Bacot was still on the roster, Carolina was 7th in rebounds per game, 11th in defensive rebounds, 15th in rebound margin, and 47th in offensive rebounds. The year after you left, which was last season, some of those numbers dropped. They were 98th in rebound margin, 105th in rebounds per game, and 240th in offensive rebounds per game. So they went from being 47th in the country, which isn't bad at all, right? That's not bad in any measures because you got to think about this. There's over 300 teams that play Division I college basketball. They went from being in the top 50 to being 240th, and also North Carolina has always been known for its great rebounders, especially on the offensive glass. So they really struggled with not only with rebounding, but when you struggle with rebounding, usually that means either A, you're not physical enough, or B, you didn't have the height. And those are two things that North Carolina did not have last season. And as I mentioned, the last two North Carolina squads, talking about 2023, the 24 and 25 Tar Heel squads, they were both under 78 inches. And last season, they averaged 76.4 inches per player. So if you do the math, right? 12 times 6 is 72. So they average They had an average height of 6'4". That's really not that tall. And like I said, they only had 2 players that were 6'10" on their roster last season. So they averaged 76.4 inches per player in 2025, and that was 305th, according to KenPom. There are 362 Division I basketball programs, and they were in the 300s. That's pretty bad. But this season, they increased their height to 78.62, which is 6'6", which is more than a 2-inch difference. So they improved at height. I mean, you added Henry Visar, and then of course you added Ivan Malikovic, who was literally just added 2 weeks ago, right? I mean, he was at High Point 2 weeks ago. Now it's at Darhill. Although I don't think Malikovic will play significant minutes, but he is still somebody you can use as a body during practice and also be a role player for North Carolina. Of course, Henry Visar starting. You also got to mention Jaron Williamson, who is an excellent stretch four. He has some issues on the offensive side of the ball, even though he can shoot. But he has some issues with consistency. But defensively, he's one of the best defenders around because he can guard any position. He can guard the forwards and he can guard even the guards because of not only because of his size, but his speed and athleticism and versatility. You name it, right? Visar, in conference play. So this is in Big 12 play. He averaged 10.9 points, 5.4 rebounds, and 1.5 blocks per game, while also shooting 62% from the field and shooting 38.7% from the three-point line. He was second in offensive rating. He's second in offensive rating, second in 2-point field goal percentage, 7th in block percentage, and 8th in offensive rebound percentage, according to KenPom. That's all in the conference. Remember, there was 14, 15, 16 teams in the Big 12, and he was top 10, and some even in the top 5 for some of those categories. Can't get better than that. And, of course, Caleb Wilson is a tremendous defensive player. He showed it in high school. And, yes, I know it's high school, but he averaged 4 blocks a game in high school, right? Of course, he can score the basketball. He can score from anywhere on the court. He can play defense. He can be a facilitator. He averaged 21.6 points per game, 11.1 rebounds, 5 assists, 3.6 blocks, 2.1 steals last season. I mean, he's a great player. I mean, you added more versatility to your front court. And then on top of that, your front court also got better too. They got a lot better. So this roster is an upgrade, right? I mean, you added a guy like Luka Bogovac, who is 22 years old, right? Even though he's a freshman, he's 22 years old because he played for professional. So he's a much more mature player than a lot of the guys he's going to see on the court, especially not even just including his team, but every opponent he's going to go up against, he's already more mature than them because he's already played against adults. He's 16, 17 years old? Then you got Kyan Evans, who is probably more of your traditional UNC point guard, but he can score at will. He's a great three-point shooter. He can pass the ball with effectiveness. I mean, he is a true point guard, even though he probably is a better shooter. Let's say RJ Davis, but he's about the same. He plays the same. He's like basically RJ Davis replacement, but I think he's even a better shooter than RJ Davis. And, of course, we already know what Seth Trimble can do. This team got better. I really do, right? And, of course, you have to play the game. You have to play to win the game, just like Herm Edwards said. But this team, on paper, got better. You fixed your needs. You fixed your weaknesses. You got what you needed. Now it's time for for it to come together. And I'm not saying Hubert Davis is a bad coach. Hubert Davis is an excellent coach. Although I think really his shortfalls have been trying to build the team and build the program. I don't think it's anything to do with his coaching style. I think it's more to do with how he's building up the program more than anything else. And I think that's the one thing he may lack compared to John Shire and, of course, Will Wade, who's now at NC State. Those two guys are excellent program builders. I mean, John Shire has done a great job keeping that thing at Duke together, even though Coach K retired, right? Usually when those guys, like guys like Coach K retired, there's a drop-off. But there hasn't been a drop-off of Duke. His first 2 years, they were in the Elite Eight, and they won the final, and they went to the Final Four last year. And really should have gone to the national championship game if they didn't choke in the last, minute or so. And NC State, I think they got a hell of a coach in Will Wade. I've said that before on the podcast. I've written articles about it. So I think Hubert Davis has a chance to rewrite the history books and show that he can coach at an elite level, because I believe he can. But the issue has been building up the roster. Last year, you didn't have a GM. You didn't have Jim Tanner. Jim Tanner got hired after the season was over. I feel like UNC basketball has modernized itself to the point where they can compete not only in the ACC, but at the national level. We know they can compete in the ACC, but can they be a national title contending team? And I think this offseason showed that he has the ability to put this roster together. Now, it's time to see it come together in the court. I think they've done a good job in the offseason. But what can they do when the regular season starts? We'll wait and find out in October. Or when they play against BYU in that exposition game in Salt Lake City in late August. But, of course, November 3rd is when the season starts off, when they play against Central Arkansas. And then on November 7th, they will take on Kansas at the Dean Dome. And that probably will tell you who and what this team is, because that non-conference schedule is not going to get any easier, right? You still got to play Michigan State. You still got to play Ohio State. You still got to go to Lexington to play Kentucky. It's going to be a tough non-conference schedule. And if they have let's just say they go 12-2 non-conference play, that's a pretty good run, right? And maybe not the one that North Carolina fans want, but you got it. But I think if you have say you lose only 1 or 2 games, and what is a tough non-conference schedule, that's good. That's good enough. Because really, if you lose 4, 5, 6 games in conference play, that's a 7-8 loss season, and that's probably good enough. And depending on who you beat, for a top 4 seed. And of course, I think North Carolina fans want number 1, number 1, number 2 seed to make it easier on themselves. But I think North Carolina has a chance to improve off of last year. They have improved. They improved roster. They have a lot of things going for them. Now it's time for it to come together. Thank you so much for watching the Tar Heels Insider Podcast. Once again, I am your host, Grant Sashary, bringing you all the latest news in regards to the University of North Carolina and its athletic programs. Of course, follow us on Twitter and Facebook, right? North Carolina Tar Heels on the side. Make sure to go follow me on Twitter. My last name and first name. Pretty simple. And if you have a hard time trying to spell my last name, just pull the Tony Sasheries out the cabinet. Simple enough. And then also make sure to check out our website. Everything's free, no paywall, no subscription, and no bowl. We try to tell it like it is. We try to give you the best content possible for you guys, because we all know how much you love the North Carolina Tar Heels, and we want to connect with the community as much as possible. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. See you guys later, and you guys have a great rest of your Sunday.